Hey team, I'm excited to share that we have decided to record all of our training and give it to you. The same training our clients pay us tens of thousands of dollars to help them implement, the same training that now coaches almost $1 billion in active revenue, we've decided to record that and share it with you. I brought in one of my coaching partners, Cole Taylor, to help me do that. So I'd love for you to check out this training, give us any insights that you have, and hopefully this will help you move forward. We believe the biggest opportunities that exist in our country today have to do with helping small and medium-sized businesses, which is why we've decided to do this. So check it out.
All right, guys, like I said, we're doing something crazy today. We're going to actually give you the blueprint for free that we have taught hundreds of companies. Like I said, currently we have over $500 million of revenue of organizations that we get to serve and implement this process into their organization. And we're actually going to give you the exact tools. We're going to show you what you can do to implement right now to boost your profits, to increase your team performance, so you can build the organization that you really want. I've actually brought with me my partner in this consulting firm that we get to serve with, so that he can give his amazing perspective. He gets to serve different organizations as far as the coaching we do. He gets to see inside some incredible companies, and he's actually written a lot of this curriculum so that you guys get a very unique perspective and you can see the real truth behind this stuff. So we're gonna dive in. Before we teach you though, we wanna show you how this actually works, not just from our perspective, but what some of our clients say about the experience and the results they've gotten. So let me just share my screen really quick and I'm gonna show you what they have said.
So as you can see, we've had over 100 busy entrepreneurs and leaders take the time to go write a comment and not just a star in terms of the results we've been able to get. And you can see all really 5-star reviews. And so it's amazing to me, considering how busy they are, they took the time to share about their experience with us and the results they've been able to achieve. And I think Cole's gonna walk through a couple of those right now.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't cherry picked these. This is not something we've queued up. I literally just searched Exit Momentum reviews and we're scrolling through in real time what our clients are saying. Obviously all these are 5-star and they're saying just about their experience. Like this is Brandy, one of the amazing organizations I get to work. She's a department head. She says we've been working with them for 6 months. Results are and impact are tremendous. The method provides so much clarity, focus, and efficiencies. A lot of them are saying just about their specific coach. Obviously, this one was me. You saw a couple others with our other team. Julie and Ren are up there. This one's pretty funny too. Restorations company we coached took our business to the next level in 6 minutes. I don't know how I did that. That's one of my clients, but apparently one of our conversations took his business to the next level. And I could scroll through a ton of these. This is another one of our coach, Derek, saying just the impact that they've had, our company with Ren. So this is a process we get to do with a bunch of amazing organizations. You hear the words like transformative, eye-opening, game-changing. We didn't prompt them to say any of this. We just said, hey, if you want to leave a review, that'd be super beneficial for us. And they use their own words. We didn't tell them to say these things. It's just, out of the kindness of their heart, because they believe in what we're doing and the impact, revolutionized our business. Could not recommend them more. And so you can go search these yourself if you want to, know that I'm not BSing you. But all of these are unqueued. We hired them. This has helped us so much. And so you can get real feedback and you can go look them up. They're real companies. This is attached to who they are, and go search the people. We're making an incredible impact. The last one here, Colin and his team are the best at what they do and will transform your business. And so don't take our word for it. Go take theirs. But we want to dive in and we want to teach you this exact process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually screen share here and show you inside our method. This is what we call the momentum method. This is a process that we have really dialed in, and Colin has pioneered, that's brought some incredible tools from a lot of amazing sources, and not just take our word for it sources. I'm a cool author, people that have done peer-reviewed studies for thousands of companies, and we found a method of really implementing this. And Colin, so do you want to start walking us through this actual framework?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, we've gone and synthesized the things that are out there today. So there's a number of systems that are great. We felt like it was an opportunity to go take the best of multiple and put them together to drive the most efficient results. So please understand, we've been after this for years and done this literally hundreds and hundreds of times. And so this is a very refined process. So when we think about this method, the way I like to talk about it is it's a lens you need to look through as an owner. So you need to put a set of goggles on that sees the world in this way, right? Number one, do we have the right people in the organization? Are we really clear about that, what that means? And there's some specifics we're going to get into in that. But it's something that gets says a lot, but it's hard to implement. So we want to make sure we give you the tools for that. Number 2, purpose, which really ties to our vision, our strategy, and our plan. How are those documented? And most importantly, maybe you've got it in your head, but you haven't put it in a format that actually your team can understand and they can execute against. You're very inspired, you're very connected to it, but it's not an executable thing. It's almost like grabbing at smoke. Process. It's one of those things a lot of our owners and entrepreneurs don't want to talk about, but it is the difference between a mid-sized company and truly a scaling company, something that makes a difference that allows you to grow. And there's ways to do that that don't require ridiculous amounts of documentation, because again, you're busy, you have a lot going on. How do I pick which things we're going to define processes for? What's the format for that? So we'll walk you through some of that as well. And then ultimately measuring performance so we know how we're doing, so we can coach our team, so we can celebrate wins, so we can have hard conversations when necessary. And the reality is all of those things drive what you really care about, which is profit, right? So we oftentimes tell our clients they're always focused on revenue and profit and growth. I'm like, great. If we focus on the outside, the inside will take care of itself. And that's what we're here to teach you today, so you can go implement this in your business.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And Colin's going to dive in and actually explain the first one and some of the tools that we use. Before we do that, one thing I want to add is we hear this a lot from our owners as a big pain point from them is they recognize they know how to grow, but they don't know how to do it without them being attached to everything. Like, yeah. I know I can get us to produce more, but I'm not quite sure how to do that without creating more work and more stress for myself.
Yeah.
The amazing part about this is it doesn't just create more profit. It actually allows a system for you to plug the right people in. They get attached to the purpose. They have processes to execute upon. They're being held accountable to performance. And you as the leader can step out and focus on how do I just optimize and make this system better? I don't have to be the one running the system. I step out of it and work, you've heard the phrase work on the business, not in the business. This is what you start to work on is, do I have the right people in the right seats? Great. Have I clarified our purpose for them? Can I get them attached to that? Awesome. Do I need to better our processes? Do I need to make clearly defined wins better so we can hold people accountable to performance? Because then you can really accelerate this thing, but you're not the one doing it. You're not the one doing all the dirty work. You're just making sure the system is optimized. And so Colin's going to dive in to people first, and then we're going to take these one at a time. And again, not just show you what to do as far as like, hey, get your people right. We're going to actually screenshot and show you some tools inside of our companies that we've actually implemented so that you could go do that same thing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cole, it's interesting. I got a call yesterday from an owner, about 20-person company. He said, no problem with revenue, no problem with profit. But he said, I feel like I'm involved in 3/4 of everything we do and have 20 people on my staff. How do I get out of this self-made prison? And I thought it was a beautiful statement because he's like, I'm successful, I'm making money, but I feel like I'm in prison. Yeah. And so that is where this starts to come together. So to your point, they can let go. So number 1 on this is getting clear about accountability. Who owns what? And so if you think about, a football team or a basketball team, when a coach draws a play, we have to know who has to play what role and who has the ball, right? And not 2 or 3 people don't have the ball at one time. Cole's got an amazing background playing football. I don't know that you ever, I think you were running back, right?
Receiver. Played some running back in high school too.
Did you and another receiver ever try to catch the ball at the same time, like the two of you, and run down the field as a little duo, like grade school? So
didn't work out well. Yeah.
So we're looking to clarify functional accountability. On the next page, I'm going to show you how to do that, how to think through that, because it's the inverse of how you would normally think because you care about your people. Next, how do we assess talent? Like, so how do you, we want people to do better, and we're like, okay, do more, do better. That's not really assessing the talent that they have and then figuring out how to grow their skills or find opportunities for growth for them and acknowledge the things that are really good that we can expand. So it's not just about the problems, it's also about the opportunities where I don't think we're getting all we can get out of John or Susan or whatever else because there's more upside there. So talent assessment is also about that upside opportunity. And last, team health. How are you connected as a team so that it's not just, hey, we enjoy working together and we do a social event or whatever it may be. This is also about understanding each other, being able to have deep conversations, going through assessments and so forth. So again, we're going to walk through some specifics here, but those are kind of the core fundamentals of the people function. So here you see an example of, some people call this an org chart, some people call it accountability chart, some people call it responsibility chart. I don't care what you call it, right? Bottom line is we have to think through what are the core functions of the business. We have to get clear what those are. So you start there. So we always talk about boxes first. So if you're going to do this work, what I need you to do is get a blank whiteboard, a blank piece of paper, whatever you're going to do. And I want you to draw just out the boxes. Let go of titles, let go of those kind of things, and think about what are the core fundamental functions of our business. And then what does it look like above that? Sometimes that's called visionary integrator. Sometimes that's called CEO, COO. Again, that's a little more title driven. GM, sometimes it's one box. So you've got to really think about core functions at the bottom first. Forget what role you're in, forget your title, forget, your other business partners and stuff like that. Really step back and let go and imagine that you're an advisor to this company. You're helping them set themselves up for 3 to 6 to 9 months from now. So we're clear about capacity. So it's boxes first, the bullets second. So what are the 5 or 6 things? I like to tell people, if you had a great job description, which of course very few people actually read or use after they're interviewed, plug it into ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, give me the 5 key bullets that really cover this page and a half or 2 pages so that I know ultimately if I'm in that seat, what I'm accountable for the business. And so that's next. And then we layer in the people and we ask the question, can they fill that seat? The challenge.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say to this, and I think, didn't mean to interrupt you. I think the one thing that people push back on me when we're teaching this is like, this is so basic. Like, yeah, cool. Let's like show me the real magic. And I think they forget how much clarity drives everything. Like we're starting with the simple framework of who actually owns this. Like if we're going to assign a new goal, a new strategy, like who's going to own that for their specific area? And you mentioned we just started with the $50 million pest control company the other day, and they had no leadership team. And so this is the foundation of how do we start making decisions at a higher level, where it starts with who's going to own those decisions.
Yeah. And here's the thing we see over and over and again that you're going to run into. You care about your people. You want to do great work in your community. And so you start to say, well, man, John's really good at this, but he's not so good at that. So I'm not going to give that to him. I'm going to give that to Sally. And all of a sudden you start creating these, what we call Frankenstein roles, where there's things that are bolted together. And then when John wants to elevate, or John moves on or retires or whatever else, now all of a sudden I'm trying to hire Frankenstein. Right. And so we have to think through that, and we have to think about where we're going, not where we are. Oftentimes with the organizations we get to deal with, whether they're doing 2 million, 5 million, 20 million, 100 million bucks, part of the problem is their people plan is based on what they were previously, and it's not a forward-looking view of how to set up their people. Again, if you think about sports or you think about music, right, the musicians have to be in the right spot. In sport, they have to be in the right spot on the field to actually execute the play. So think about this in terms of getting the people in the right spot, helping them understand what they actually own, and you having clarity so you can coach them against the things you need them to be accountable for.
100%.
So on the left is a talent assessment chart from Top Grading, great book around hiring and all that kind of stuff. So it's a way to assess talent, looking at a couple of different things. So here's what I want you to do if you're going to use this. Number 1, on the productivity side, 0 to 10, if you have somebody that literally you don't understand how they can get all the work done. It's almost like a cyborg. You want to break them open, you feel like there's a machine in there. That's a 10 in terms of productivity, and there's probably only 1 or 2 people in your entire organization that are at that level. Now I want you to use that as the benchmark to rate everybody else. On the y-axis, the culture fit. I want you to think about the person that if you cut them open, they bleed your colors. It's like they literally, part of their DNA is your company, and that is the 10 on that level. And again, there's probably only 1 or 2 people in your entire company that are that, and you use them as the benchmark. So then you can plot people on here and start to think about how to leverage this in terms of, are they trending up or trending down? And what is my coaching plan or action plan for them in the next quarter? So that's, again, Top Grading, talent assessment tool, very valuable to help people get clear very quickly and minimize a lot of discussion around where people are and what needs to change. Additionally, over here, a tool that comes out of Scaling Up. So the opportunity to actually see this face tool and the ability to look at it and say, okay, once I have clarity around the functions, who's accountable for those functions, it's related to the previous people chart that you saw. But then there's also a look to say, okay, what ultimately are the KPIs or the leading indicators I need to know that person is responsible for, and then what are the results and outcomes? So there's a bit of leading and lagging in that tied to each one of those seats. So again, we are clear about what it means to win if I own operations, what it means to win if I own technology, what am I accountable for, and then what are the metrics I should be seeing on the front side and the back side in terms of my performance, so that we can obviously coach people, acknowledge people, and when necessary, make hard decisions and remove people.
It's great. Love it. Let's talk about purpose. This is the second piece of this circle. But we go hard at the people side first, because if you don't have the right people in the right seats, none of it really matters. Like, it's going to be a one-person show. And until you build that structure to release ownership and delegate and elevate, it's a term we use a lot, then you really won't be able to get people attached to a purpose. You can't give them a process because you don't have the people that can actually execute it. So we got to start with the core foundations of what people are we placing to give ownership to. And the second is, now let's give them direction. Let's give them fuel to the fire. Let's give them a filter to start looking through. And so this is the three pieces that we look at when it comes to purpose: is vision, strategy, and plan. Vision is this long-term picture of where we're going. It all centers around what we call big, hairy, audacious goal. That's not a phrase we made up. That's Jim Collins, right? And so it's just a powerful tool to say, what is this really audacious thing that we're chasing? But that's the starting place of vision. But we need to actually take that and say, how are we going to get there, and who are we in that process? So the second piece is strategy. This is really what makes us different. And I would say, with a lot of the organizations that we worked with, many of them have a long-term goal. Many of them have defined their core values, which is part of this as well. And maybe they even have an executable plan of targets and stuff, but they haven't done really any work strategy-wise. And even some of the certifications that we have and I've been through, they don't talk about this piece at all, this differentiating factor. And so really it leaves you with this, like, here's my goal long-term, and here's an executable plan today, but there's really no how in that process. And I think this is really where the magic can happen. You can separate yourself from other companies. And the last piece is really centered around reverse engineering. And so creating an executable plan that says, okay, if this is where we're going, and maybe it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years, how do we get that to today? Like, what do we do today that makes sure that we're trending in that direction? Is there things we say yes to now that maybe we say no to later, or vice versa? There's things we say no to now that are going to get in the way because they're awesome, but they're not actually pushing us in the right direction. And so I'm going to show you just some examples of the tools within our organization, since you can see a quick snapshot from them. This is starting off for vision, 3 things we build. One is our core values, and we start there because that defines your culture. Simon Sinek says culture is values plus behaviors. And so if I want to create a behavior system inside of my organization that leads to the culture I want, I've got to first off define, who am I? And so this is one of our team's core values. And you can see they are very specific on the types of people they are. And they use very specific language, not even language that I would use necessarily, but I love it. Like I love it for them because they get fired up about it. And you see accountable AF and get shit done. Like, not language that I typically use. Mine has scriptures attached to it, and there's a whole phrasing around like impact and how that affects and so I built a culture based on that. This team is built as a very rah-rah culture that gets them excited about the work they're doing. And that's amazing. And that's what you want, is to actually define the culture you want by who you say you're going to be. Second is purpose. Before we get to a big, hairy, audacious goal of defining what that point on the map looks like, it's important to recognize, what are we doing besides just making money? What's this thing that actually, what it was referred to a lot, and we'll talk about this, is what's this just cause that we're trying to advance? What's this thing that we're trying to accomplish? We may never actually get there, but it's this world that we're seeking. I was just with a client that's a construction firm in Georgia, and theirs is, we build better communities by building better leaders. And their just cause they're really advancing is they're so passionate about the communities that they serve that their construction projects are just a tool for that. They don't care as much about the work itself as they do the impact that it makes. Your clients, you get to work with Branded Bills, connecting people to their experiences. Hatch just happen to be the tool they use to connect people to those experiences, because a lot of it's business to business, and you put your own branding. Like I wear our Exit Momentum hats all the time, and I'm connected to our company because of that tool. And so you really got to ask yourself, is what's the work that we do outside of just making money? What's this impact we're trying to make? And this really should be a filter for you to say, what work will we not do because of that? That construction firm I mentioned, they just turned out a big job that was a strip club because it didn't build a better community. They were like, well, this would be a great money for us, but I don't think that actually serves our purpose. I have another friend who used the same exercise that turned down a cannabis company that offered to work with them because they didn't feel like it served their purpose. Like the owner said, I have no problem with it. Like, I think it's a great organization. It just doesn't fit our company's purpose. And so we actually referred it to somebody else. And so I love that, like a very clearly defined filter based off of what are we actually trying to do outside of just making money. And the last piece is where the reverse engineering can begin, is I got to define this GPS point on the map. Is where are we actually going? A lot of organizations just get in the car and say, let's just start pushing towards growth. It's like, okay, but where are you actually going? How do we set the GPS to a very specific destination? Because that'll set all of your focus. Your system should go towards that, your processes, your targets, your people. You have to start making decisions now. Even when you think about some of the reverse engineering we do, If it's going to require multiple locations or different buildings, some of that stuff takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years of prep before you can actually move into that building. And some companies will say, we want to be at 5 locations in 3 years. And it's like, have you already started land negotiations? Because that should have already happened if you're going to get there. And so it actually gives you a clear picture to begin to work backwards. Second piece of this is strategy. And like I said, this is something that we see as very much missed across the organizations we get to serve, even if they've done a lot of this work, is they don't have a clear strategic plan and what's going to separate us from everybody else. So I won't dive too deep into what these specifically on the sheet are, but just I want you to see some tools that you can use to actually begin to separate yourself and get a clear focus of how we're serving people, what makes us different, who is it that we're actually serving. And for you organizations or leaders that are watching this that are like passionate about marketing and getting new clients to serve, if you aren't very clear on who it is that you're actually serving, and not only the demographic and geographic of the stats and where they are, but the psychographic of how they make decisions, it's going to be really hard to speak to them. And so this is a tool that we use even starting off in strategy, is getting very clear of the deep internal motivators of your buyers or of your clients that you're trying to serve, so you can speak to them in a different way and separate yourself from someone else. There's actually language you can use that one phrase said differently will speak to a broke person versus a very affluent person. Like you could say this literally the same phrase versus like, I'm struggling with finances versus I'd like to optimize my wealth. That same phrase speaks to totally different people. Although it's the same theme as I want to make more money or I want to make my money go further, it speaks to totally different people. So we got to get very clear on that. Second thing is brand promises. What actually do we promise that separates us from everybody else, that really tells us as an organization, as a front-facing piece to those people, if you've got a concern or something that you're unsure about, here's how we conquer that. Here's how we separate ourselves from everybody else. Differentiating activities. Here's the things that we actually specifically do different than everyone else. Everyone in the industry says they have good communication. Everybody in the industry says they're going to get their job done on time or whatever it is. What do you do that's different? What is that one thing, two things, three things that, or even in this case, four things that when someone looks at, oh man, I've looked at other companies, they don't do that. That's amazing. I would love to work with them because of how they separate themselves. And there's a bunch of tools that we can build, even a very specific strategy, something we call the flywheel of actually documenting our processes, is that the organizations that want to work with you can very clearly see exactly what they're jumping into. And so these are some strategic differentiators. And the last piece is plan. To me, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's amazing to have a long-term vision of where we're going. It's awesome to have amazing strategy, but if I can't start to make some of these shorter term predictions and commit to a process, then I'm never going to reach my goals. And I tell this to our teams all the time. I love that we set this amazing goal and everyone's inspired by it. But if we can't do the today work, we can't do the this quarter work, then none of that's going to matter. But what's awesome is when I can get a clear, really uniting plan for everyone to know exactly how we're doing that. What's the steps of the process? And without fail, every time we leave our vision planning sessions, teams will be excited and pumped, but then say, oh my gosh, I have no idea if that's even possible. When we do this session and they leave with a very clear plan, broken down from 3 years down to 1 year, down into quarterly, I ask them, do you think that's doable this quarter? And they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. I'm like, great. If you do that every quarter, we're going to hit that big, hairy, audacious goal that you hit. And they're like, well, I guess that's not as scary as I thought. And so it actually creates bite-sized pieces, eating the elephant one bite at a time in a very confident way for a team. And so, high-level overview of this is getting very strategic numbers, and financials for the organization at each of these time periods. So in 3 years, where do we need to be if we're going to get our 10-year target? Same thing with 1 year. Where do we need to be if we're going to hit our target? And that's not just revenue. Most companies focus on that and don't break down the margins. Here, this one's just net. Most of our companies, we're going to dive into gross margins as well. What do we need to actually keep from each of the projects we're serving after cost of goods sold? And so we need to have a very clear target process for this. Same thing with measurables. We often call them, these are our key drivers of what's going to be driving these financials. Is it a specific breakdown of number of clientele or customers for each area? Is it a specific revenue for each location? Is it a percentage of breakdown? Colin's seen a ton of different examples for this type, but it's like, what's going to actually drive those numbers? And then from there, the last piece is for each of these sections, I need to know what the business actually looks like starting off, but then what are the goals that are going to make those things happen? If we accomplish these things, that's a reality. And what really gives our clients tangible action items for the 90-day period moving forward is to say, what are the big projects or rocks that if we get these accomplished, this becomes a byproduct. If John can get this standard created, or if she can get 3 client experience managers seated or interviewed for those seats, then we will hit these numbers. And so we have a very clear actual action plan to hit our goals. Anything to add here on this one, Colin?
Yeah, I think the thing I want to do is, because obviously we got people who are trying to make sure they can do this on their own. So let's pop back to the vision page. I just want to give a couple of key tips for how you do this yourself.
Yeah.
So the core values piece, what I want you to do is I want you to think about the key people in your organization that are amazing, and just jot some of those names down, maybe even a strategic partner or two, maybe a core customer, and think about who they are as humans, not necessarily what they do or whatever else, but how would you describe that group of people and try to synthesize that down into kind of 3 to 5 key attributes. We love seeing that turned into a phrase so it becomes actionable. So start with corporate, not yourself, not maybe other your closest leaders around you. Really think about other people in the organization that really shine in terms of who they are as humans. And you feel like if you had more of that, things could be quite a bit different. So that's the first piece. The second piece on the purpose side is, why are you doing this, right? You're in a particular business and it's like, so I'm in pest control, I'm in construction, I'm in technology, I'm in education, whatever it may be. But there's usually something deeper than that. And if you think about it, obviously everybody's been to Disney World or Disneyland or experienced a Disney product. And the purpose from way back when was to make people happy. Well, that doesn't say I'm making movies. It doesn't say I'm building a amusement park. It doesn't say I'm doing streaming. It is to make people happy, and that drives decisions for the organization. So what is the purpose? What is the soul? What is kind of the spirit of your business? This is where that would live. Something you're chasing that just really pulls you forward. And that BHAG, this thing that you're going after that kind of scares you. So I want you to be able to write down some things that scare you and don't get lost in the how. So try to get it down to a simple statement, but don't get lost in the how from that standpoint. So again, key people, description, handful of core values, purpose, spend some time, write some phrasing down, just some quiet time, maybe journaling time, and you'll wind up working that to a statement that matters to you. And then the BHAG, this thing that you're going after. So that's really the pro tips for you being able to do this on your own and get to the first version.
And the one piece of this one too, and I get a lot of questions about this, is like, well, how do I know if it's a good goal or not? One encouragement for you as a leader is every goal is made up. So do not be stressed that this has to be perfect. Like,
right.
How do I know if it's the right thing? It isn't. You are actually setting an intention and you get to decide it's the right thing because you're going to create a plan to go attack that thing. It's the same thing with any other area of your life. If you're setting a health goal, okay, if I'm going to lose 20 pounds, why 20? Yeah, because that's the thing you decided. Great, let's create a plan for it. If that's what you want, let's go chase this thing. And so one, don't put the pressure to have this perfect. You're just committing to, this is where I want to go and I'm creating a vision. But the filter that we use to determine, like, is this actually a good, big, hairy, audacious goal is what we call the 48-inch test. Is when you are going to ride a roller coaster as a kid, there's those yardsticks on the side that say, are you tall enough to ride this ride? What is the feeling that you finally reach, or when you finally reach tall enough to ride these rides, what's the feeling that you get? It's two things, right? It's one is excitement. Yes, I get to do this. But what's the second feeling? Oh God, like I have to actually ride the ride now. Colin calls this the pukey feeling a little bit. It's like, this is it's exciting, but now I'm really nervous about this. This without fail describes how our leaders feel when they set a good, big, hairy, audacious goal. Is I'm inspired by this. I'm pumped by it. This gets me out of bed in the morning. And I can't wait to chase this thing, but also, oh God, I have no idea how we're going to do that. That scares the heck out of me. And that is a good, big, hairy, audacious goal. The problem is a lot of teams will just set layups. We're growing at 20% a year. And so they just take that 20% and multiply it times across 5 years. And it's like, there's our big, hairy, audacious goal. It's like, I feel like that's going to happen already. That doesn't stretch you. That doesn't make you sick to your stomach. That's just who you are already. And so get very strategic when you set this, is make sure this thing actually stretches you.
Yeah. The strategy piece, I would say if you're starting and doing something, just focus on two, let the rest go. That you really need probably some help facilitation there. One is ideal client. Yeah. And the key thing here is you may serve a lot of different people. Who is the best client for you to serve? Think about the top 3 to 5 customers you have. What is true about them as humans? What is true about where they live? What is true about how they think, what they value? And you may have more than one. Usually it's a max of 2 to 3. If we do more than one, ideal client. And the biggest thing we focus on, obviously, is how they think and what they value. The key thing there is for you to think about, what do they actually value? Not what do you want them to value, what do they actually care about and value? And so thinking through that, getting clear. And we've had plenty of clients before where we got a wealth management firm one time who said, hey, we really need to be doing more in the retiree and business owner space. But when we looked at their book, that was only about 40% of the actual accounts that they were dealing with. Right. So it was a big awakening, and it took us several years, but now I'm happy to report it is well beyond that. The book's 10 times the size it was before, but it was an awareness that day that actually the minority of my customers are actually ideal. What are the things I need to do messaging wise and everything else? So getting clear on the ideal client. Don't overdo it. This doesn't need to be full on meta avatars to run ads against, all that kind of stuff. That's not what we're talking about here. It's a clear description there. And then you shift to brand promises and really thinking about what is it that, as Cole said very well earlier, what do we promise? So if you think about, and then in simple language, and one of the things I tell people to do sometimes they're doing this on their own is, if you've got good Google reviews and Facebook reviews, awesome. If you don't, shame on you. Second part of that is, if you have them, go read them and go look for language that your customers that have said good things about you have put in their words. Because I think what we have found over time, I don't think I know, is the simpler the language, the better. And your customers oftentimes are the key to what language. Now, the one thing to remember here is why people buy initially is not why they stay. So you want to think about your brand promises of what you're trying to promise the market. This is usually a little more prospect driven, early customer, not somebody who's going to work with you for 2, 5, 10 years. They're with you for a whole different set of reasons. And so this brand promise is speaking to that. It's also to challenge you. Are we actually delivering on this? And can I actually measure in some key KPIs, scoreboards, whatever, on that to see if we're hitting? So if you're doing this work on your own, ideal client brand promises, let the rest go. That's a little more complicated to deal with. That'll give you a good start about who am I supposed to serve and what am I going to promise to that customer, and then how am I going to measure it?
Yeah, it's great.
And then on the plan, Cole hit it before. Yes, revenue is important. Gross profit, critically important. This is a little bit older example for us. Yeah. So we require that. So you need to get clear. If you don't know your gross profit and you're not doing a good job accounting wise, you need to clean that up. And then obviously net profit certainly is important as well. And then those key drivers moving through. I would tell you, if 3 year feels like too much, I would just do the 1 year and the quarter for now, and maybe add the 3 year once you kind of get going. I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just a little bit harder. It takes a little more work, a little more thinking in terms of that. So if you kill that one, so be it. Focus on the 1 year where we are, and then the quarter. And the 1 year is not a wish. I hope I'm going to get there, shoot for the stars and land on the moon. No, this is the thing we're going to go execute against. It should stretch us, but it should not be an impossibility that it's like, well, if I don't get there and we get here, I'm still happy. No. Whatever the thing is that we're going to go hit, because your team needs to know that when you declare, I'm going to do $500, $5 million, $50 million, right, that is what we're going to do. And they understand this is a clear commitment in terms of what we're up to. And this needs to tie together. Now, sometimes for our clients, quite frankly, their accounting's a little messy because when they started, they haven't gotten real clear about that. And they've got a bookkeeper, not a controller or CFO in that role. Yep. And the other thing is they don't have great metrics sometimes. So wherever you are. This is not about shame and guilt or bad or wrong. Start and you will get better, right? From the goals standpoint, those are things we need to get done by the end of the year. So think about the 3 to 5 things that you want to get done. Yes or no. I want to have that finished by year end, even though there may be continuing steps. So understand what the goals and the rocks. At times, you're going to set something that is going to be the step to get to the next thing. Sometimes, a goal leads to something that takes 2 years. Cole was talking about adding the buildings, all that kind of stuff. So just understand when we hit December 31st, this has to be done, yes or no. Same thing for each quarter. But I would suggest probably letting go of the 3 year and focusing on the 1 year and the quarter for the first time you're doing this yourself.
That's great. Good thoughts. Let's dive into process.
Great. So process-wise, this is one of those things most entrepreneurs, especially founders that are idea generators, stuff like that, aren't real excited about. And so a couple things here. Thinking through our processes, moving to potentially checklists or things we can put into technology. So we're clear, are we doing things the right way? I like to think of it like Hansel and Gretel, dropping a crumb on the ground and I can find my way to, was that grandma's house? I don't know. But anyway, I think that's what that was. So in any event, it's really finding those steps that get me naturally there. Now, the problem oftentimes is people are trying to document too much because they got some wrong people in the organization. So they're trying to create systems that deal with their inability or incompetence. Not that they're bad people, but they're incompetent of being able to do the thing. Right. So I want to make sure you don't take your lowest performer as the reference point to document your processes. These are typically 1 to 2 pages. This is not 30 pages in a document. We deal with a lot of regulated businesses. So think financial institutions, medical, where they have to have all this documentation because they've got all this, they've got these binders and audits. And guess what they need? They need these simplified checklist core processes to work through. And the place we tell everybody to start is if you haven't documented how to onboard an employee, that's a good place to start because it is the #1 expense in your business more than likely. Number 2, how do you onboard a new customer or onboard a new product? Because that is a point where somebody has decided to give you money, and the experience they have in that first 30 seconds to 30 days matters a lot. So we're doing that really, really well. So if you have nothing documented, let's go document how we're going to take care of our people as they join the company. Let's document how we're going to actually onboard clients. Next is meeting structure. So how we meet, and there's a number of different ways this has been done through the systems that are out there in terms of structure. We've kind of synthesized that as well and leveraged it. So we'll talk about a little more detail in a second on it, but how you meet as a leadership team and as department matter. And this is transformational. It seems, Cole said earlier, like on the accountability chart, people chart, it seems kind of simple. This is really simple too, but it's transformative to businesses once they start using it. And the last is the one-on-one. How do you actually coach people? What's our process for talent development? We talked about a little bit in the people section. We got a process. So across the organization, whether you're a 5-person organization or 500-person organization, what is the way we meet with people from a one-on-one perspective and make sure we're getting value out of that versus just having kind of a nice conversation? There's a way to do that as well. So we're going to jump to the meeting structure and talk through this. So again, a number of different systems talk about this different ways and talk about it in unique ways. We talk about being able to get into that section of the fired up section. What are you fired up about from last week? That could be pissed off or that could be excited. And oftentimes we like for people to think in terms of what's going on personally for them as well as what's going on in the business. And just a quick share. So if I've got 5 people in the meeting, only 1 minute per person. Next, that scoreboard. When you walk into a ball game, you want to be able to see what's going on and understand what's been happening in the game if you're late for that game. And so what is the scoreboard that I can look at and being clear, are the numbers on track or not? And accountability for each one of those people on that. Rock Review, this is, again, the quarterly projects we set up called Rocks. Comes from Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so bottom line there is, are we on track for our Rocks? Quick review. We're not going into deep discussion here. Client team updates. So anything we need to update the team on that's happened with a client or the team. Our to-do list, what are the things we committed to last week that we need to have done this week? So 7-day action items we're committed to every week. And then the important part, issue and opportunity processing. And let me say this, we call it specifically issue and opportunity processing because in some of the other systems, it's just issues or problems and it just becomes really, quite frankly, negative. We think most of the organizations that we deal with have so many ideas, so many opportunities. We want to make sure these land on the list as well. Certainly are there challenges and things we have to clean up for sure, but here's a place for you to have those things live and then spend the appropriate amount of time, not a passing text and a voice note and an email and hey, you got 30 seconds and you don't actually solve it, really pulling it apart and getting clear what's going on and then making commitments for the next week. And then we conclude the meeting. We have a whole other training on this that goes a deep dive on that. We'll likely link in the show notes for this or we'll let you access on the channel as well. But that's really the format for that meeting. The times can be changed based on the format. So for our leadership teams, we typically recommend this being a 90-minute meeting unless it's a really small team. Sometimes those are 60. And then departmental meetings tend to be 30 to 45 to 60, depending upon the number of people. As soon as you get to 5 people or more, you're going to need more time for sure in terms of that. So that's that momentum meeting cadence that we recommend. And again, we'll have additional content for you to consume on this if you want to dive into it.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, if you're wanting to implement this, because I get to speak to a lot of events, of masterminds, of organizations, of leaders that they get really fired up about this one for some reason. I think it's just everybody likes, us visionary leaders just don't have great structure. They're like, man, maybe this thing will get my team to be more engaged and the meetings will feel better because I hate them. Because me as a visionary, I typically hate meetings too. And so I think that's probably why people get excited. But the reason we call this momentum meeting outside of just, aligning brand name is that this thing should create your weekly rhythm. This thing should drive action. This thing should be where everyone's held accountable. We're solving, new decisions together, and then we're creating a new action plan. And then the next week, we're reviewing and say, did we do what we said we're going to do? And it builds this ecosystem of solve a problem, create an action item. The next week, we say, did we finish it? Awesome. Let's solve a new problem. And so it becomes this really amazing rhythm to drive execution. And the other thing I'll say for this too is the meat, and Colin said this, is the most important part of this meeting is this 60-second chunk where we are coming together as a team and solving things together. The problem
60 minutes.
or 60 seconds to solve the 60 minutes that we have as a team. Because the problem is if you're like me as a leader, my gut feeling a lot of times is just to drop in or call somebody, be like, hey, you got a minute? I've got this idea for you. But they're not in the space. I had an integrator from my health company the other day. I called him and he said, bro, like, please just put that on our issues list. I'm in the middle of something. Like, you know better than this. And so he's like, I'm not in the space to talk through this big idea that you have. And so us as a leader, it actually gives us a place to not only save those ideas for later, but it creates a space where those people that aren't just wanting to drop everything and listen to your ideas, they're actually ready and prepared. And frankly, they're going to get more out of it and they're going to care more about it because they're ready for it, instead of you just dropping a bomb of, hey, what if we created an apparel company, or, whatever random idea you have as a visionary. But the other cool part about this too, is there's a space now for actually assigning action from it. You didn't just talk about it and it sounded like a cool idea and they're like, all right, we'll get to it later. It's like, no. What are we going to do with that? Are we saying later, or are we committing to an action item right now? And the problem is, if you don't have a structure of meetings for that, then a lot of stuff gets talked about, but nothing actually happens. With a furniture company I get to coach, they said, and this is a multi-generational company, $30-ish million a year in revenue. And they said, I don't know what we were doing in meetings before. Like, we talked about a lot of stuff, but like nothing ever really got done. It's because of this. They didn't have a system for actually assigning action and holding people accountable. And so the way that I look about this schedule, if you're going to implement this right now, like, one, follow the schedule to a T. But the danger is these things, and the reason why they're set at 5 minutes is these things can aggressively get accelerated. Like Scoreboard, we can talk about it for 3 hours if we're not careful.
Right.
I look at it, these first 5 sections are actually, I'm an athlete and I'm warming up my body for the actual game to start, which is this. And the reason I say it like that is all of this is just visibility and accountability. Let's look at the data. Are we on track or off track? We're not going to discuss it. We're just saying, like, what is it? Anything we need to discuss later? Great, we'll add it to this issue. Great, let's look at our projects, our rocks that we've committed to. Are we on track or off track? Great, anything to discuss? We'll add it here and we'll discuss it later. And so you actually are prepping yourself for the meeting. You're getting the whole team ready. You're looking at the data that's necessary. You're getting the updates that are necessary. And then you're ready to dive in and say, let's solve problems together and assign some work. And so to me, like, as a leader, that frame has helped a lot, so that I'm making sure this is prep for me. I'm just looking at the data. I'm looking at where we're at. And then now we're in a space that we've prioritized issues in urgency and importance, and we've got a system to assign action for them. And then we can actually get good work done. If not, you're just all over the place discussing whatever you want whenever it comes to minds. This one actually gives you a rhythm to get stuff done.
Yeah. The other thing I'd add, and we're going to get to this at the tail end, just because I think some of you may feel overwhelmed with, how do I do this? Am I running a timer? How many documents do I have to have open? We have a software tool that we recommend that's best in class. It's not the only way to do it. We're going to show you that. We're going to actually give you access to our custom template for free. No cost to that, but this will help you do that. And so a lot of people, from a starting standpoint, that's a great place to get started and leverage it, because if not, it is way more work if you don't have a custom built solution to run this. And so we'll give you a link to that in a bit.
For sure. All right, let's talk about performance. This is the piece that really brings the flywheel together. If you remember that picture that I showed you at the beginning, it's, people, then purpose, then process, then performance, and all of those drive profit. This is the one that brings it all home. We have the right people in the right seats. We've got really good people that fit our values, but also can perform at a high level in their role. We've now attached them to a clear purpose, which is our vision, where we're going, our strategy, how we're different, our plan, what are we executing on? So right people in the right seats attached to that purpose. Then we've given them clear processes to make sure that we're executing on the right things and we're all clear on what those systems look like. The last piece is making sure people are actually performing at a high level. And a lot of times, and I've had to learn this hard lesson as a leader, is it's not because those people aren't capable, it's because we haven't clearly defined what winning actually looks like for them.
Yeah.
So we try to hold them accountable to things that we never told them were actually important. We just said, I feel like you should be doing better. And they're like, I've been working my butt off. I thought I've been doing a good job. And it's because we have not defined what performance should actually look like. And so they're just guessing. There's a study that we reference a lot in our sessions that said that 30% of employees have no idea how they contribute to the priorities of the organization. And over half of the employees don't even know what the priorities are. And so how are we clearly defining what is it actually important? Well, we do that with numbers that we track, saying, here's what the win looks like, and we're going to measure it. And when we say it's measured, it tells people it's important. And so for us, performance starts with what we call a scoreboard. There's different names for it. You can call it a KPI dashboard, a number chart, however you want to refer to it. But I love the term scoreboard just as an athlete. You can see the jerseys behind me. Like, that was my life for many years. And I see KPI dashboards in this frame. And Colin gave the example before. If you're walking into a sports game, you could have no idea who's playing. You could have no idea how the game's been going, but you could look up immediately and say, all right, it's the third quarter. There's 6 minutes left on the clock. It's 21-7. I know who's got the ball, and immediately I'm caught up to speed of what's happening. The same thing here is, do I have KPI dashboards or an actual number scoreboard built that says, if I don't know what's going on in our company, if I'm on a desert island and someone hands me this sheet of paper, I can actually see how we're performing and I can make good decisions. It's one of my favorite phrases, is great data leads to great decisions. So I'm going to show you one of the scoreboards in a second, but the cool part about this, and really where I begin to see the value in having clear performance metrics. I knew it, I'd seen it, I'd done it in our businesses, but I had one of the guys that certified me in one of these processes. He runs a private equity firm. Currently, I think they have 80 something companies in it. He's had a stupid amount of exits. I think they say over 100 at this point. And I think some of those were conglomerations, but had a wild amount of exits, and they currently run, tens and, almost 100 companies. And I would ask him, like, how the heck do you do that? And he has had himself as the CEO of those organizations. I'm like, there's no way you run those. He's like, no, I've got an incredible integrator for each of those organizations, what he called a business leader. And then I have clear KPI scoreboards for every single one. And they come across my desk every week, and I have a meeting with that leader and say, where are we at? What decisions do we need to make? Great, go run. And so I recognize, man, if you can do that with 50, 60, 70 companies, I can do that for one company, and I can have really good information to make good decisions. But that's how you want to treat your KPIs, is if I'm a leader, what data do I need to see if we're actually on track to how we're performing? And so what this actually can create is this system, like I said, of it brings that flywheel home of it wraps up right people, right seats, attached to purpose, processes to execute upon, and then now performance that I step out of as a leader, and I just focus on make this thing faster. How do I make the process better? How do I get better people in? How do I make our product higher margin? How do I make it better? Like, I'm just focusing on the overall improvements, but the system starts to build on itself, and we can just focus on how do we just get a little better today. So example of scoreboards that we use, and obviously you should have scoreboards for your organization as a whole. As a leadership team, you should have ones for departments. I really think you should have individual KPI metrics too, to show them as their role, what are your targets? And you can see the way that we set it up in the software that we'll give you access to for free is we have a clearly defined owner, what they're focusing upon, what the goal is, and then each week seeing, did I hit the goal or not? And there's a transparency and ownership of me in this role. And let's just say this is a marketing role, obviously, because we're talking about marketing spend and reviews and conversions. But if I'm the head of this marketing department, what are the most important metrics that I'm looking at, and how do I clearly define a win? And then now there's transparency every single week that, did I do my job well or not? Are we moving in the right direction? And so this gives a really cool twofold thing of, one, you, a leader, can make good decisions, but two, is you're actually handing that ownership to that employee or that leader that says, that's your thing. You're gonna have to own it every week, and you tell me, and I really look at this like inverted reverse pyramid leadership is like, I now work for you. You tell me what you need, and my video froze up, and so I'll unplug and replug. But you tell me as a leader, how do I need to support you in that? Like, this is your job now. It's not my job to make sure we've got enough leads. That is your job. And how can I support you? And it really transfers this ownership to the team, because they're gonna have to report on every week. And if they don't know how to do it, they're gonna come to you and say, hey, I need help with this. That's what you want. It's you're handing that delegation so that you can elevate out of those things and they can feel the weight of those things. Anything you would add on these scoreboards, Colin?
Yeah, I did. The one thing that hits me is obviously, look, there's a lot of red on the scoreboard. So we didn't just pull the Instagram highlight reel of what's going on. And that's the reality. And this is actually an indication for a team at one point about a slowdown in a particular industry that they had to adjust to. And so we took that snapshot on purpose. And bottom line is, it removes a lot of the qualitative, subjective conversation, right? If my goal is $13 million this quarter, and I've got to hit $1 million of revenue per month, and I break that down at $250 per week, it's super clear whether I'm hitting or not. It's like, well, this week we had this thing, and there was a snowstorm, and there was a rain thing, and then there was the parade. Like, there's all of this noise inside of your business. And so our goal is to have as few numbers as possible. Again, think about the scoreboard, right? There's a gazillion other metrics that teams are measuring and stuff like that. But as the person walking into the stadium, I've got a really good sense of what's going on, as Cole shared. And so that's the point here. And it allows people to get out of a lot of conversations. And quite frankly, they act faster. Once they see this on a regular basis, they also are acting faster. And sometimes that's, again, on the positive. Things are going really well. We're getting a lot of leads. Hey, we got to make another sales hire. We got to get another onboarding hire. So it is not just the problems. It's also, man, we're outstripping our plan, but we're going to run out of capacity of our people. We got to activate our people department to hire somebody. So for you, doing this work, what are those as few metrics as possible that if you look at it, you have a really good sense. Doesn't mean everything's great, but you have a really good sense of what's going on in business and what is the goal. Not the, I'm going to smash it, grand slam home run. What is the goal that leads to the other metrics we set in that quarterly target and that annual target? So divide by 52, divide by 13, whatever you need, that number to then say that is the goal for the week, and then be able to manage it so you know whether you're on track or not every week, and you don't get to the 15th of the next month and finally get your P&L to say, oh, we're behind. Well, you're 6 weeks behind at that point in time. So what you do now is only going to impact the last 2 months of the next month. Right. So it speeds things up, and it's important. So again, pro tip for you, try to figure out as few numbers as possible. We like to think about the core function of the business. So what are the couple of marketing numbers, couple of sales numbers, couple of product or ops or technology, whatever you call it, numbers, couple of finance numbers. It tends to lean a little more to the front, a little more marketing and sales, a little bit of ops, sometimes a little harder on the finance side or people side. But if you wind up with 5 to 10 to 15 numbers, I think you'll find this incredibly valuable for your business. And it's going to take some time. You're going to work through a couple of iterations of this before you get it right. And you feel like, hey, this is the right scoreboard for us.
Yeah. Like you said, don't try to die. If you don't have these yet, don't try to build 14 based off of different departments and different people. Like start with one. Start with what are the main ones that we want to see? Like you said, somewhere between 5 and 15 is a good starting place. 1, 2, 3 per each bucket of business. And then you can expand from there. Then I can say, all right, what's the marketing specific scoreboard? What's the sales specific? Because you should have those, and you should be able to see deeper numbers. Like if I'm a quarterbacks coach, I want to see, what my completion rate is. I want to see, what our yards per throw is. I want to see my time in the pocket. Like there's things that I want to see, but that's for the quarterback coach to look at. As a leader, there's certain things that I only care about. And so what's our passing yards? Those kind of things. And so start simple, and then you can expand from there. And so as a wrap up to this, method, just so you see the picture one more time now that you've seen the tools, is it starts with people. I want the right people in the right seats. Obviously, we gave some tool examples. Highly recommend. Go do that. Go implement that for your business. That's the foundation. Same thing with purpose, is I've got vision, strategy, and plan tools that I can design to give my company a framework to look through and say, how do we make decisions, and where are we going? What's our executable plan? Third is, what is our processes? Do we actually have the core functions of our business documented in a way that people can use it? Not just a 42-page document that says how to send an email. It's, how do I actually get good work done in a way that people can consume it and look back to it and refer and say, are we doing this the right way? And then finally, performance is, do I have clearly defined scoreboards that people can know what a win looks like and be held accountable to that consistently? And if you do those things, if you go implement those tools, it will drive more profit for you. Now, I want to talk to you really quick about, if you're hearing this as a leader, not doing this yourself. Because the reality is, we see this over and over again. The reason why people hire us is not because you're not capable as a leader. And in fact, if you're watching this, my assumption is because you're consuming this type of content, you're probably a smart, capable leader. There's things that you want to learn and understand. You want to grow your business. Like, kudos to you. The reality is you could probably go implement those stuff. Like, you could ask ChatGPT, how do I build a people chart? How do I build a scoreboard? Like, there's plenty of free resources out there. But the question is how much time am I willing to spend to try to figure it out? How much frustration am I going to go through to be able to make this happen? How long is it going to take me to get it right? Or how much could I save of all of those if I just had someone do it for me? And that's why people hire us. It's not because they're not capable. It's, I don't want to spend my time being a business systems integrator. I've got other things to accomplish. I want to be the visionary of the company and things that I want to create. And so allow us to do that. So I just want to walk you through really quickly 2 pieces. One is I want to show you the software, and I'll let Colin kind of explain what this does and how you can get access, and we'll actually drop the link in here. And then 2 is I want to show you what our actual process looks like if you're a leader that says, I'd rather just get this done faster so that we don't miss a beat and we can rapidly accelerate this process for us. So Colin, explain what this, because you're a part of this as well, explain what they're going to get in this, explain what they'll get access to when they get that custom template as well, and how this will help that for them.
Absolutely. So 90.io system's been around for 7-8 years in this space, handling these kind of things. literally several 100,000 users, tens of thousands of companies now in the system. So this is not some small software platform. Has taken an outside investment. We're a strategic partner of theirs. We have built our own custom template that we're happy to provide to you for free. There's a 30-day free trial as well, so you don't have to pay for anything.
No
Get
card,
into the system.
nothing.
It's got everything set up the way that we do it, especially in particular on the vision, strategy, and plan tab, which is so hard to create and think through if you don't have that structure. It's just a blank screen. It's like, what do I put where? Same thing with the meeting template in terms of that. There's a sample people chart in there as well. So we've got some components in there, and we're actually happy to even potentially do a call with you after you've done some work to give you some feedback on that as another thing we could do for you. But bottom line, when I was a client of this and didn't have this tool, it added about 2 to 2.5 hours to my week of getting information, documenting it here, putting in this thing. Once I had this, that literally 2.5 hours turned into about 10 minutes. So it is a material difference. And I suspect you, like me, as I was running businesses, I didn't have an extra amount of time laying around. And so being short on time, this really helped solve that and helped us move us forward. And the reason we require to the clients we work with, so to be clear, when clients hire us, I don't care what system they have, they can keep all those systems. We require that they use this. If they won't use this, we won't work with them, because we know the value of it is so much higher and moves them so much faster, and we're going to get a better result. So if they want to fight the system, that's okay. They just can't work with us. That's how committed we are to this system. And again, we're going to provide you our template that we have built, and we have labored over and labored over and labored over for years, and literally hundreds of companies and sessions that we've done this to say, this is the right approach. We're going to hand it to you for free.
Great, powerful. So check the link in the show notes for this below. It'll say 90, free custom template. You can download it yourself. You won't even have to put a card in there. They just give you a free trial. So we're not, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to we want to give you free value so that you can see the value of this system. And then obviously at some point, if you want us to give you feedback, you want us to help set it up, we can accelerate that for you. But let's talk what that looks like. This is what we do. If you're a leader that's, already built a meaningful business, you're creating substantial revenue, a couple $1 million plus a year. And obviously we've got organizations much bigger than that, 50 to 75 million plus a year. But if you're already doing a couple million a year and you want to accelerate your profits, you want to boost that team performance like we talked about, and you don't want to waste your time figuring this out yourself, you're like, let me just have an expert that can come teach me how to skip the landmines and run way faster. That's where we come in, and we can actually come hands-on, facilitate this process for you. This is not a course we're going to give you. This is not something you buy and just watch and give you more time. In fact, we do it for you so that we can save you time and give you focus. And so I'll just walk through these quick framework really quick and let Colin give his feedback. And accelerating this about what I'm going to say. If you already know this is what you want, just click the link below and there's a book a call thing, and you can set up a time with me, with Colin, one of our team, that will actually walk you through how we can do this for you and customize it and the feedback, and it'll be just as much as a coaching call as it is there. And so if you're wanting feedback on your business, if you're wanting to go look at, hey, did I set this up properly? Just go click that link below and we'll actually just jump on a call and we can talk about how we can serve you. But if you're like, hey, I would love this accelerated for me, and I want someone to come in and facilitate it so that I don't have to spend all that time. I just want it done for me and make sure it's done right. This is what we do. We come in person, hands-on, and do it with you. This is not, again, not a course or a product we're giving you. We're going to come and make sure it's done properly and get with you hands-on and say, we've done this hundreds of times. Let's make sure you get it right so that you don't miss out on the potential profits or performance that if you did it yourself, you might not get to. And so for us, there's two phases. There's a setup process that we call implementation that gets the foundations in place. And then there's execution that ongoing continues to optimize. Just like your health goals or any other areas of your life, there's no real finish line. There's always more that we can continue to work, continue to optimize, continue to implement. There's new things we can add, and we treat the businesses we work with the same. There's no defined limits. We don't say you have to be with us a year. In fact, all of it's monthly. Like that's a way we treat things. Is it's our job to show them value. Now, I will say the average customer stays with us a couple of years. So that tells you about how much value we bring. Is we let them pay monthly, no commitment, and they still choose to keep paying us. That's why we do it that way, is because we want to deliver value in both ways, but there's an ongoing optimization that we can keep building the system better. And so our implementation phase first is 3 sessions across 3 months, essentially. You got a session and then 30 days, another session, 30 days, and then you have the final implementation session. The reason we do that is because we want to give time for the system to work its way through your leadership team and say, is this the right thing? Because it's custom for you. This is not It's the same thing for everybody. You must do it this way. It's let's make sure as we define your values, is that exactly how you want to say it? As we create this big, hairy, audacious goal, is that really who we are? Is that purpose where we want to go? And so we give you time to work through this, and we also give us time to help facilitate some of that. Like we jump on and we audit your meetings to make sure you're doing it right. We give you more trainings and tools to your team. And like I meet with a lot of our middle level leaders or department heads, and I'll give them feedback on how they're leading their team. So there's a lot that we can massage in there to make sure this system is actually taking root. And we can't do that by just doing 3 days back to back. We find it's better to separate it and to give you time to process. So day one for us is what we call the kickoff day. That's our foundational tools that allow us to build this process. We've already talked about what a lot of those tools are, but it really gives us the process to get work done. Then day two is where vision comes into play. A lot of companies will be like, why don't we do vision first? Well, because we found that if you put the execution system first, it actually gives you a platform to begin to roll the vision out. If I just leave with a binder that's here's your values and your purpose, but I don't have a system to execute, nothing changes. And so we do the execution first, day one. Day two is we'll create this long-term plan, some of the things we talked about. Day three, we actually bridge it home and we create that strategic plan. And you actually have a full documented thing inside of that 90 software that says, here's who we are, here's where we're going, here's our goals, here's our targets, here's our values, here's our purpose. That whole system I just showed you, we leave those 3 days and you've built it out. And the last piece is how do we get the whole company bought into that? So once you've had that set up, ongoing, as long as is valuable, we keep coming back in person every single quarter, and we will help you optimize this thing. Colin, anything you want to add as we wrap up here?
No, that's it. I mean, it's worked. It's proven. It works. We're working with you and your key leaders, so it's co-created. That's a key component of this. So many of our folks, and if you're going to do this on your own, my suggestion is you involve some of those other key leaders. Don't care if they're owners of the business or whatever else, because people want to feel a part of something. We see that over and over again in the research that's happening today in terms of people joining the workforce and beyond. And so, are you co-creating this? So that's part of the reason we come, is that we're facilitating co-creating and moving people through it faster. And quite frankly, again, we want you to be able to do this on your own. That's the purpose of this training. And the reason people hire us is because they're like, I can do this. I just don't have the 2 years, and you've already done this hundreds of times. I think I'm going to get there faster, and speed is more important to me than the investment or whatever else, whatever other thing may get in the way. So they're buying time when they choose to do this, because to Cole's point, you're plenty smart enough to do this. If you've built a business that's sustainable and working, could use some help and some feedback. Yeah, are there other tools to do it? For sure. The question is, how long is it going to take you to get the results? And obviously you're doing this for the first time, where we've got the experience hundreds of times. But again, you can do this. We want you to be able to implement, find these things on your own and do that. But this is the way we do it incredibly successfully across industries, across the country, and across the sizes of organizations.
Yeah, that's it. And as we wrap up, I'll just challenge you and encourage you is whatever you do something. Don't just watch this video and be like, cool, I'll get to that later. Like, this is the foundational operating system for how you should function as a business. So do something, whether you do it yourself and you get your team together and you schedule it, amazing. That's a win. We can give you the software to use, or if you're like, I want to accelerate this and I want to make sure it's done right, we can help you as well. Either way, commit to it. And if that is you and you want feedback, you want help, click the link below. We've got our call calendar that you can check that out. But I will say one more thing to add to that. If you're a leader that are wanting, you do want that process accelerated, our first session of those three, first section of those 3 sessions are actually money back guaranteed. So we prove our value to our companies too, and we can make sure that we deliver that value. So thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys taking this value and allowing us to share with you. Take some action, click the link if you want help, and we'll see you in the next video.